It's Evan.
Hey, Evan.
No mai, haere mai. Welcome everybody. Please check your mute. So welcome to our opening session for setting the scene for transformation of forestry in Aotearoa. My name is Ian Short. I'm here with Lucy, who is the lead of this project. This session is part of a Waranga series for Close to Nature Continuous Cover Forestry business models. I'm going to tell you a little bit about it in a minute, but first we're going to welcome Ernest Morton, who's going to be providing our mihi and karakia. Ernest is a purpose-driven forestry professional with more than 40 years of employing and training our local people, silviculture, export, purchase of woodlots, and forestry management. He is committed to growing the resilience of Māori through the forestry industry and the intent of Te Tiriti o Waitangi. Currently, Ernest is chairman of Taitukoro Māori Forests Collective, trustee of Ngāti Hine Forestry Trust, member of the Northern Wood Council, Northland Forestry Health and Safety Group, and sits on the Forestry and Wood Processing Industry Transformation Plan Steering Group. Ernest, over to you.
Kia ora tātou. Can you hear me all right?
We're good.
Okay. Kia ora tātou. Ko Ernest Morton tēnei, me tukuna he karakia mō tātou. I'm going to open it up with a prayer for us, a karakia for our hui. Let's e pā te matua, ko koe te timatanga, te mātauranga ngā mea katoa. Ko koe me nei, ko koe te huarahi, te pono me te ora. Nano reira, e tukuna mai tēnei ino i kia koe, tēnei whakawhetai, nā te mea ko tukuna mai koe, tō tama ko tahi kia kahore ngaro te tanga te whakapunona, kia whiwhia ia te ora tonu tanga. No nei reira, ko tukuna mai tō manakitanga i urunga i a tātou, i tō roto i tātou whakapono. Koina tēnei kōrero i roto i tēnei karakia. Nā, kia pēnei tā tātou kōrero i ēnei mea. Ki te mea ko te atua hei hoa mō tātou. E ko wai hei whawhai ki a tātou. Nano reira e pā te matua. E tukuna nei ino i kia koe kia whakatahai i a koe i a mātou, i o mātou whakawhiti kōrero, whakaaro. I te waiho hei taonga mō ngā whakatupuranga ko te haere mai. E mohi ana e pā te matua toi koe tēnei tō hia kia waiho e taonga mō tātou. E kōrero ana te tai au kia tātou, kia tukuna mai hei moi ā. Hei waiho e taonga mō tātou mō ngā whakatupuranga ko te haere mai. Nā e mātau ana, i roto i tō kupu, e menga nei. Nā e mātau ana tātou, ke te mahitahi katoa ngā mea ki te pai, ma te hunga arohana, kia koe ara mo te hunga, e karangatia i runga i tau e whakatokatoe. Nano reira, e tukuna mai no tō mana ki tanga i runga i a tātou whakawhiti koro, i runga i a tātou whakaaro, kia tatu ei, kia marika nei, kia whai hua, ake atu, anga mua, mō ngā whakatupuranga mō tātou, me ngā whakatupuranga ko te haere mai, tātou i tēnei motu, me o tātou i tērā taha o te awa, i tā wahi, tukuna mai to mana ki tanga ki runga ia tātou katoa e whakawhiriwhiri e whakakomiri mai o ene whakaro. Ene ino i roto i to ingo tapua i Ukraiti to tātou ariki. Amen.
Amen. Mawaira
E
Kaurima E Mara
Marai irua hone ma letida ama te pano ome aroha.
Paina e tukuna mai hei no reira e tukuna mai hei mihi kia koutou. Tihore kau ana te rangi e tu ake nei. Ruru ana te whenua e takoto ake nei. E hotu ana taku manawa, taku wairua i roto i ahau. Ka peka kau ana o taku manawa. I toku rahi, i toku iti. Ko tai mai, rā ki te tautoko, te kaupapo, e whakahuihui tia nei e tātou. Kia oti ei tātou, te hunga rautaki. Ngā taunga tuku ihoa, i whau, i te wau nui a tāne te wairua, tāne te whakapiripiri, tāne nui a rangi. Tuia ki runga, tuia ki raro, tuia ki te here tangata. E taki ana mai a ihua matua kore, mai rāna. Nā reira, e mihi ana kia koutou, kia tātou mā. E mihi ana kia koutou i tā wahi. Ngā take, iwi take i tā wahi. I konei te Aotearoa, e mihi ana. I wainga nui e te wānanga ipurangi. E pēnei ana te kōrero. Ia tātou i tēnei mahi rangatira nei. I te kore tātou e whakapono. I te kahore tātou e u. Nā no reira, e mihi ana kia koutou. A koutou i tō tātou whānau. I tā wahi. Mihi ana ki ngā te tungu ake i te kingi a Ingerana. Te kai mahi ngā mahi ngahere. Ngā tungu ake i ki reira. Mihi ana ki a koe. Mihi ana ki ngā tō tātou whānau i tā wahi. Mindomini o Wisconsin. Tō tātou whānau ki reira. Te rangatira a Michael, me ngā kaimahi i tō koutou mahi i roto i te ngahere. I hari a te ngākau. Nā te mea ko, tū taki mātou, tātou katoa ki te whakawhiriwhiri, te kōpiri mai wa ngā kōrero nei. Rangatira, kia waihoe e tupunga hei taonga po ngā whakatupunanga ko te haere mai. Nā he mihi ana ki, kia koutou putanoa ki te motu. A koutou i konei i tēnei wahi o Aotearoa, a Zion. Koutou tāne tree trusses. Koutou katoa. Rawa hi hena ki i te waiho he ingoa i roto i tēnei mā. Engari, kia koutou, kia tātou katoa, e mihi mai ana. Kia koutou e tai mai nei i tēnei o tātou hui. Kia kōrero tia, kia tukuna mai hei whakaaro. Mo tā tātou ngā here, Māori, mo tātou ngā here. I roto i Aotearoa, kia whakatika tika. E hari ana te ngākau, pa tūtaki i a tātou ki te kōrero, kia whakamōhia, kia whakatika tika i ngā mea katoa. Nā te mea e karanga mai ana te tai au kia tātou, kia whakatika tika i ngā mea. O tātou na ngā mea, ka tukuna mai he moe moe a mo rātou, ka tukuna mai te tai au he hua mo tātou. Nano reira, hoino tēnei mihi ana kia koutou, i tō koutou mahi hira hira nei. Kia koe Ian, te tumuake mo tō tātou connective, tēnā koe, nano reira, hoino he mihi ana kia tātou katoa, e noho mai nā i tā wāhi, me kone ono i tēnei motu, e mihi tonu ana kia tātou katoa i tēnei wā. Nano reira, hono e korera tuatu tēne, e mihi tonu ana. I think I want to just korera to us about our karakia and also our mihi and why we do these things. Our karakia is an indoi, which is a prayer, and it's what it does, it paves the way. If you like, it cuts a track and makes a clearing. And that clearing is to clear us from ngā moi kore te la, the hassle, the humdrum of the day, the heaviness of what we face in life, and some of the delay, the disappointment. It clears those away so that we can do what needs to be done unhindered. That's the ultimate purpose of prayer. I'm not one to pray ritualistic. I like to make the prayer purposeful. It also bestows manaki upon us, which is a blessing. And I like to read this, express this out to you, how Māori sees it. Nā ka tupu te taha o te awa I tōna pareparenga. The trees grow along the banks of the river. Ki te tahi, on this side and on that side. Ngā rākau katoa, e kore ngā rau, e memenga, e kore ano, ngā hua e kore. So what it's saying there is that the fruit will not fail and the leaves will not wither. Ko ana te hua, hau tōna I o rātou marama. They will bear fruit on their month in their season. No te mea ko puta mai rātou wai I te wahi tapu, because the waters have been, that feed these plants or these trees have been sanctified through our krakia. Now, nā hei kai tērā hua, hei rongoa tērā hua. That means that the fruit will be for food and the leaves will be for medicine. So our krakia is not only praying a blessing, making a way clear for us, but also praying a blessing on what we do and describing our motive, why we're doing it. We're doing it not only for ourselves, but for our next generation to come. We're leaving them a legacy and a hope. And our prakia paves that way, makes a clearing for us to work and to do this important task unhindered. That also brings us together, even from overseas and in Aotearoa, of all nationalities, because it says that if we don't believe, we won't be established. I te kore koe e whakapono, kore koe e u. That's what it means. If you don't believe, you will not be established. So we believe in what we're doing. We believe that this job or this mahi is purposeful, and we are going to accomplish it. There's a blessing and a sanctified blessing upon us, each one of us, on what we do. We are open to learn from each other, to appreciate one another. And as a result of that, we leave a legacy and a hope for the next generation. So that's just a brief example of that. My name is Ernest Morton. I'm from Te Kawimoa. Te Kawimoa is a heke. In other words, it's where I come from. It's kahu ariki of Ngati Hine, Ngati Horohia. Those are my hapu and my tribes, and Ngapuhi Nuitona. So as Ian was explaining, I've been in the forestry game, I suppose, for over 40 years. I've been an employer. I've been in the logging scene. I've been the silviculture. I'm currently the chairman of Te Tokerau Māori Forest Inc. Our mihi has come on behalf of Ngā Pauatane, which is a national Māori Forest Association. And this is to whom this whole project is being initiated from, Ngā Pauatane, which is a indigenous Māori concept. We are also intertwining in this our belief in marama taka, in Māoritanga, and tikanga, which is something that this environment has been calling out for a long time. So we finally got an opportunity to work together to create a vision. And as a result of that, the fruit of the forest will provide the provision for our vision. So to intertwine all that together, we come together. It doesn't matter about who we are, our nationalities. We come together as one to create this on the vision and the guidance of Mātauranga Māori through Ngā Pauatane. And so I welcome you all here today. Nā no reira, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. I'll pass it back to Ian.
Tēnā koe, Ernest. Thank you very much for the karakia, the mihi, and the explanation in terms of why we're here, why everybody's here today. So I'm going to jump straight in, hopefully. Yep, there we go. So welcome again. Some would have missed the earlier welcome to the first of 6 in a Wananga series on close to nature, continuous cover forestry business models. We're going to talk a little bit about the project in a minute, which I'll go through relatively quickly. Then we'll have Peter Berg from Tane's Tree Trust speak, and Tim Payne from Scion. And then a little strangely, at the end, instead of Q&A, we're going to have introductions, because actually this is the first of 6 within this project, but we're really, a big part of what we're doing with this project is to support a connection through people in Aotearoa, New Zealand, and outside of New Zealand who are on the same journey. And so clearly we've got 59 people plus extras. So when we get to that introduction, it's going to be short and sharp, but the reason for it is because we really do feel like that we're at a step in a journey, and the journey needs all of us together, as Ernest outlined. Okay, jumping in. So the project is part of the industry transformation plan in New Zealand, and particularly Action 7.2, the promoting continuous cover forestry. And of those 3 bullet points you can see on the left there, our focus primarily is around providing business cases, but we'll get into that a little bit in the next slide. The outcomes of our project is that the environmental, social, and economic benefits of continuous cover forestry are realized, and that forest managers take a more adaptive approach to forestry using CCF regimes where appropriate. Anyway, I'm going to go a little faster so you can hear from the speakers. So what the project is looking to do, as it says there, 1, 2, and 3, build a collective knowledge and understanding of the business models, both in New Zealand and internationally. Number 2, understand systems, barriers, and enablers to scale continuous cover forestry in Aotearoa. And learning there comes from New Zealand and internationally as well. And then the third outcome is that the priority business models for continuous cover forestry are made clear so that we can pursue and drive forward forestry sector in Aotearoa. Okay, very quickly, our guiding principles for this wānanga, for this workshops, for this coming together. Mātauranga Māori, or Māori knowledge, wisdom, or science, and rangatiratanga, which is self-determination or sovereignty, will inform all our outcomes, especially for the native species. We need to understand the past and kind of where we are today to be able to be clear about how we go forward. We need to recognize the land as a taonga or a treasure. We're looking at place-based, multi-use, diverse, and holistic forested landscapes. Climate smart forestry is a major driver and a major climate solution, and therefore does sit at the core of this. And this really is about a collection and a coming together. So we look for all of us, those who are in the project and partners, to be open-minded, have mutual respect and benefits, and we really see this as a collaboration that will deliver a whole lot more than we would be doing by ourselves. Okay, last piece from me. As I said, this is the first of 6, and I think everybody who's on here has received a targeted invitation, and you've gone through and registered through the website set up, and so you will have seen this. So really just to say that today is the opening session, setting the scene, which Ernest has done amazingly for us up front, and hopefully you can make it to the next 5 as well. Okay, I'm now then going to hand over to Peter Berg from Tāne's Tree Trust. Peter is the past president of the New Zealand Institute of Forestry, the New Zealand Forest Owners Association for 12 years, and a former member of SCION, the New Zealand Forest Research Institute. He's on Auckland Conservation Boards. Peter is presently the chair of Tāne's Tree Trust, Forest Growers Research, the New Zealand branch, no pun, of the Commonwealth Forestry Association, and a recently retired member of the Executive Committee of New Zealand Farm Forestry Association. Peter is a fellow of the NZIF, was awarded the Kirk Medal, the ONZM, and the CFA Asia Pacific Regional Medal for services to forestry. He continues to be involved in many aspects of New Zealand forestry and has jointly authored 2 books on New Zealand's forest history. So it sounds like we've got the right person to speak to us today. Peter, over to you.
Kia ora katoa. And thanks very much for that introduction, Ian, and even more so the introduction that Ernest gave. I think that sets the scene for this project very well. In this opening session, it's called Setting the Scene for Transforming Forestry in New Zealand, and I want to discuss briefly why Tāne's Tree Trust moved to continuous cover forestry as part of its strategy. But just before I do that, I also want to mention that the Trust itself is a private organisation. We have a focus on providing research and information and filling what we perceived as a gap. We've been around and involved in this particular aspect of forestry in New Zealand for the last 23 years. So yes, why do we consider that continuous cover forestry is an essential part of the New Zealand landscape? A lot of the rationale is in our forest history. So Ian, if we go to the next slide. Most of you would be familiar with this this sort of illustration anyway, but what this shows, or is intended to show, is that 200 million years ago, New Zealand was part of a greater land mass, which we know as Gondwana land. It was part of a jigsaw of continents, which slowly drifted apart. And about 80 to 100 million years ago, that little part on the right-hand side, which we've called New Zealand, drifted away. Next slide. Our native plants, as a consequence of this situation, developed in relative isolation for most of those 80 million years ago. Although, and while I say native plants, of course, the animals that were on board this raft that was drifting away from the rest of the world were also part of the process. And it's also obvious that some additional seeding of those populations occurred from time to time. But essentially, when the Polynesian voyagers first arrived in New Zealand about 800 years ago, the landscape was almost entirely forested, with tree species largely unique to New Zealand. Those Maori settlers brought familiar food. They brought dogs, rats, and fire. Next slide. Within a few hundred years, the demise of all 11 known species of moa and other large flightless birds occurred. There was extensive loss of forest, especially in lowland and drier eastern regions. And by the time the first Europeans arrived, it appeared that something like 50% of the original forest cover had disappeared or was at least heavily modified. Next slide. When Europeans arrived, they found a heavily forested country. It was still heavily forested. The early economy, therefore, focused on trees as an obvious resource. It was required to support the lifestyle, and it was also an early item of trade. So the early economy, as I say, was bolstered both by domestic and export markets. And of course, we had an excellent suite of timbers, which we utilised thoroughly. Next slide. The drive to clear land for settlement outweighed the quite limited attempts to manage forests in a more sustainable way. It's a matter of history that at least 2 or 3 times governments, becoming a little concerned about clearance, tried to establish organisations to control that. Every time it failed. The sort of reporting we were seeing was this quote from a report of the Commissioner of Crown Lands: who noted that one blade of grass is worth more to New Zealand than 2 trees. And that attitude prevailed for more or less 100 years. And it wasn't until about 1913 that a commission of inquiry was actually instituted and considered this issue a little more seriously. Their conclusion were that native trees are too slow growing for commercial forestry, and that we needed to plant faster growing exotic species. Next slide. The clearance of forest verged on the extreme. Plains, valleys, hillsides were all included, and anywhere that people could go, settlers cleared land and attempted to build their lifestyles. But thinking about it, it's quite sobering to realise that if we regard the last 80 to 100 million years as something a little more easy to conceive of, like 1 year, then the period, that 800-year period during which mankind and his fellow travellers arrived in New Zealand and have been free to extract such a fearsome toll, is no more than the last 5 minutes. Or if you want to think of it another way, 80 million years as a single day, then the last 4 seconds represent the period in which people arrived in New Zealand and have made these wholesale changes. In geological terms, the blink of an eye and the forest was so utterly adjusted. Next slide. Just showing the same thing in terms of natural cover on the left, a depiction of the forest cover before Polynesian settlement. On the right, more or less the extent of today's forest cover, and the area in white, of course, is what we're looking at. Next slide. Taking a more familiar example, this is just a portion of the northern New Zealand, and the slide on the left shows the situation around 200 years ago. In green, we've marked in the area of mature kauri forest as it existed. On the right, today is the area of mature kauri forest still existing, and the difference, 1.2 million hectares on the left and around 800,000 hectares on the right. Next picture. We've so modified the ecology of New Zealand that the future of our natural systems is in a balance. It's a situation shared, of course, by the entire planet, but the point is that we now have to make some decisions about how we progress, or the fate of our forests is really in our hands. Next slide. So Tane's Tree Trust considered that maintaining a forest cover was essential for a number of reasons. Maintaining natural biodiversity, the excessive removal of habitat has, of course, endangered both the survival of our flora, many species of our flora and fauna, and it is a fact that New Zealand has one of the highest number of any country in the world, has the highest number of species of flora and fauna whose survival is critically endangered. Introduced pest animals, weeds and pathogens are often harboured in open areas associated with forest disturbance and other land use. Unless we get control of these, the future of our forests is equally at risk. In many parts of New Zealand's steep hillsides and relatively young geology are particularly prone to erosion, leading to downstream flooding, siltation, and contamination of water supplies. And we've seen more of that in the last 12 months, I think, than any of us would like to see in the next 100 years, if that was possible. At least some of these issues can be avoided by maintaining permanent or continuous forest cover. Next slide. TTT have advocated for continuous forest cover. It's about restoring our natural forests in a manner that reflects best environmental, social, and cultural outcomes while respecting the economic benefits forests also provide, and recognising also that the way our forest economy has developed in New Zealand, both exotic and Indigenous species have to be part of that consideration. Next slide. Particular features of natural forest managed as continuous cover, which don't involve clear felling, are the superior biodiversity and better water and soil protection. I think everybody knows that. It's apple pie and motherhood to every forester that there is. But they will support the spread of other native species, increasing natural diversity, developing a multi-tiered structure over time, also enhances the ability of our forest to store carbon and retain it on site permanently. And of course, New Zealanders regard our native forests, their landscape qualities highly. It's part of our natural character. So Tane's Tree Trust in 2008 produced a publication supporting their policy that that native forest management should be a process involving continuous cover, and we haven't. In fact, we've become more and more certain that this is the only future. I'd just like to close with a couple of, with just one thought, which Rob McGowan has passed to us many times, and that is, if the land is well, the people are well. We need to pick up on that thought and continue with it into the future. Kia ora.
Peter, thank you so much for that very solid foundation. What we're going to do now is have our final speaker, Dr. Tim Payne. Tim comes from a background in soil science and has specialized interest in forest nutrition management. He's heavily involved in global efforts to support sustainable forest management. And Tim currently chairs the 12-country Montreal Process Technical Advisory Committee, which focuses on defining and measuring sustainable practice in forest management. Tim, over to you.
Thank you very much, Ian. Shall I share my screen, Lucy, or have you got, I sent slides through, but I can do it if you want.
I tell you what, Tim, you start and we'll find it and pull it up in a minute.
Okay. Well, yeah, thanks very much for the opportunity. So I'm going to pick up on a couple of comments, I think, that both Ernest had and Peter. And thanks, Ernest, for the focus on purpose. And I think that is something that's extremely important to think about when we think about continuous cover or just generally forest systems. Why do we want to do things? So I suppose on behalf of Scion, we've been around since 1949 doing a lot of work on all aspects of forestry, all the way from biotechnology through to buildings and everything in between. And oh, no, that's not the one, sorry. Did I send you the wrong one?
I think you might have done, Tim.
Okay. Anyway, so well, I'll just talk then. We had this this happened to a colleague of mine a few years ago in a very large international congress when all the technology failed. So at least Zoom's still going. So I was planning to be pretty brief anyway, and just to talk about purpose and why we might want to do what we do. Now, Peter gave a great overview of the history of New Zealand in terms of forests. We've been looking more recently at, I suppose, the range of different forest types you could have in New Zealand, and continuous cover being one of those. And how do these different aspects fit together? And I suppose what we have at the moment is a dichotomy. We have conservation estate, and we have plantation forestry, which is predominantly producing timber. Now, that's two ends of the spectrum, I suppose you might say. And there's a large gap in the middle. And I think a lot of the focus in New Zealand's been around conservation and intensive management. And we're moving now towards the opportunity and the absolute need to do things differently. So Peter mentioned erosion and some of the big issues around climate change. And we're looking at potentially increasing problems, increasing degradation of land, of water, of air. So we do definitely need different types of forests. Not all over, but you need the right forest in the right place for the right purpose. And one of the interesting things is that we've done a lot of work recently, and there's been a lot of work going on overseas around ecosystem services and the added value of forests, which aren't just timber. So, I mean, we've had that dichotomy of predominantly fiber production, but what else is there? So obviously erosion control forests, carbon forests, clean water, biodiversity enhancement, and we've got the new Indigenous biodiversity policy statement coming in. So there's lots of other things that forests can add. And if you look at how we are approaching things or have done in the past, it's been very much through an economic framework. And what we need to do now is to work more, you could call it an economic framework, but it's a socio-environmental economic framework. And we need to consider all aspects of those forests to give the goods and services that New Zealand actually needs. And the business models that we'll put together are probably, well, I know they are very different. And probably if we go down the route of, okay, well, let's look at the economics of continuous cover forestry purely from that perspective, you know, we might find some areas that work and some areas that don't. We might also find that if we then add in environmental services, that helps. If you add in social services, employment or cultural aspects and things, that helps more. And the real challenge for us is to actually look at a new model, call it a business model, which allows us to incorporate all of those sorts of things into our thinking, so that when we're looking to establish a new forest or restore a degraded forest, that we can take those things into account. And pure economic modeling is quite hard to put values on everything, and people do seem to think quite singularly, and you know, they'll go economic or environmental or social. So we really do need to actually recognize the values of all the forests and actually pull it all together. And I think the business model will look quite different to what we've had in the past. But the real challenge will be explaining that to people and then allowing us to actually go out and test, so that it's a more complex solution than maybe we've had in the past, where it's been net present value and things are okay. But it's all about all the other things. We've done a lot of work on this, on plantation forests. So we've actually valued and looked at the ecosystem service benefits in plantations. And there's a huge amount of work and sort of close to nature-based solutions overseas as well. So there are models, but I think one of the really important things that we need to do is, and I'm really heartened to see 59 people online and the opportunity to actually build a community of practice around this, which can change the direction of forests. I mean, we've still got existing timber production forests, we've got conservation forests, but everything in the middle, and being able to do things quite differently. So I'm really looking forward over the next 5 sessions to learning what people are thinking, both here and overseas. I've just got back from overseas. I've been in Germany. I see Sebastian Klinger's online. I had a really nice photograph of possibly one of his forests from Bavaria. In the UK, they're establishing a new national forest. One of the things that really comes through strongly is the links to community. And that, I think, is, we have Trees That Count and a variety of catchment groups in New Zealand. And I think, how do we bring everybody together with that good new business model or models to actually sort of move through and say, right, our goal is restoration and a whole new way of doing forestry. So I'm really looking forward to the next few sessions, and thanks for the opportunity to speak. And I'm very excited about what we're going to achieve. So I'll hand back to Ian there. Hopefully that's okay, and maybe we can have questions later. I'll share my slides with people. Sorry to send the wrong one through.
Yeah, Koi, Tim, thank you for that. That's great. And I guess it's good to throw into the mix. This isn't this is a broad church, and it needs to be a broad church to make the case. And I think the different types of business models, or moving from an economic framework to a socio-economic framework, I think this is a global shift that we've all been on for a long time. And in some countries, it's gone a whole lot faster, effectively understanding what are the things that we value rather than just looking at GDP or for financial return. And so as an ex-finance person, maybe I'm still a current finance person, this is, from my perspective, what's going to be really interesting, to see how far we can move from looking at things in a very sort of simplistic and siloed way and say, actually, what are the range of things? What's the balance of things that are important to us? And then how do we articulate that? Okay, we're going to move on to now something which is going to be fun, and it's going to be fun if everybody can stick to the rules. What we want to do is have an opportunity to introduce ourselves, for everybody to introduce themselves. So looking for 3 things in short and sharp: name, where you're from, and what's your interest in continuous cover forestry or in this conversation. And please, short and sharp, everybody, just so that we can have time to get through everybody. And if we end up with a little bit of time left over at the end before we finish 8:30 New Zealand time, then we'll have some Q&A. So with that, in fact, and this is going to be fun. I'm going to call out people. You're going to need to, you're going to have to unmute yourself, and we're going to, and I will call people out based on how they are on the screen in front of Lucy and myself. But we're going to start with Mark Bloomberg, who has to step out soon. So Mark, do you want to just give us that very quick name, where from, and interest in this Papa?
Yeah, thank you very much, Ian. Yeah, Mark Bloomberg from Te Kura Ngahari, School of Forestry here in Christchurch, New Zealand. Why I'm here, I've actually spent 20 years working on transformation of radiata pine plantations to continuous cover forestry with my colleague John Wardle, who owns a mixed age radiata forest near Christchurch. I'm looking forward to sharing what we've learned over the last 20 years with this group.
Thanks, Mark. Sorry, next on my screen is somebody who's in as KNH. Sorry, so I ask you, you might have to say your name. I'm sure it's not KNH.
Thanks, Ian. Kiri Hudson, Gisborne District Council. Been involved in conservation work here for 40 years, and really keen. Tim outlined it really nicely. The sort of polar situation we have here between Indigenous bush and plantation forestry, and really looking closely at what's in between that. So thanks for the opportunity.
Sure. Thanks, Kerry. Case Waitmans, are you able to unmute yourself?
Kia ora, my name is Case. I am from Gisborne. I am a European educated forester. We very much looked to
name just so I can see who these people are. Oh, sorry, Case.
We very much looked to Germany and especially Switzerland with continuous cover forestry. My hero was Professor Leibundgut. I have a small forest here in Gisborne, and my success is measured by how many puriri trees naturally regenerate under my second generation forest. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Case. Thank you. We'll move to Ian Brown. Ian, can you unmute yourself, or do you want to introduce yourself? If not, then...
Yes.
Okay.
All right now. Ian Brown, I'm from Hamilton. I'm a trustee of Chinese Tree Trust. I have a long background in forestry, in alternative exotic species as well as natives. And I've got a small native forest on Waiheke Island. Is that right?
That's good. Sorry, I'm just going to, so we're going to go next to Peter Hanford, then Michael S., then Durant Richards and Roger May. So Peter, then Michael, then Durant and Roger.
Kia ora koutou, Peter Hanford. I run Ground Truth, company specialising in sustainable land management, integrated land use, forestry. Had about 40 years across alternative species, native forest establishment, and continuous cover. So yes, very excited to be involved with a group of people that are interested in pursuing these things. Huge potential and a lot of knowledge that already exists. So yeah, keen to be on the journey.
Thank you, Peter. Michael?
Good morning, everyone. My name is Michael Skenador. I'm the president of Menominee Tribal Enterprises in the state of Wisconsin in the United States of America. We are an American Indian tribe, and we have been very actively and successfully managing our 236,000 acre forest for over 170 years. And I really appreciate the conversation. It sounds like an awful lot of what we do here. Thank you.
Welcome, Michael. It's great to have you on. John McCready, if you've got a question, can you just put it in the chat, please? Or if you're putting your hand up because you need to leave and want to go first. Otherwise, we're going to have questions at the end. Okay, Durant.
Hi, my name's Geraint Richards. I'm in the UK. My job, I'm head forester for the Duchy of Cornwall and to His Majesty the King. The Duchy is a 700-year-old royal estate, and it's actually the King who set me on this journey 30 years ago to look into transforming the woodlands along a continuous cover forestry basis. And I've had the privilege of coming to New Zealand a few times and connecting with some of you. So I'm delighted to be involved.
Brilliant. Welcome, Durant. Roger, you're next. Then we'll have Lee Ledgler, Hamish Randall, and Guido Loeffler. So, guys, just get yourself prepped.
Roger May, living in the Motueka Valley, top of the South Island. Been involved in this sort of forestry for a bit over 30 years. Spent a good deal of time writing a number of sustainable native forest management plans. Planted my own woodlots of exotic species. and now are starting to harvest them using European machinery and milling them. Very enjoyable. Been interested in this for a long time.
Welcome, Roger. Lee, and excuse me if I get names mangled. So Lee Legler, are you able to? Oh, are you?
He looks frozen.
You look like you might be frozen. So we might move to then Hamish Randall. Are you able to do your intro now, please?
Hey everyone, Hamish. I work for Mac Black Timber at Wanganui. We sell macrocarpa, eucalyptus, blackwood, and whatever other species we can find around the place. Some of our trees are harvested from our boss's continuous canopy forest, primarily blackwood and macrocarpa. And the last 5 years I've been planting my own forest along similar lines. We've had 1 billion trees in hill country erosion funding, and just had our first round of carbon credits. Starting to prune the trees and looking to learn some more. Yeah.
Great, thanks, Hamish. Lee Legler, are you?
Hello, my name is Lee Legler. I'm in Kerikeri, and I've been caretaking a mixed exotic forest with the aim of keeping it as a continuous canopy for the last 15 years. And it's coming close to harvest, and so I'm interested in how to proceed forward.
Welcome. So next Guido, and then can we have lined up Kathy Fitzgerald, Sandra Velarde, and then Frank Stry?
Yeah, kia ora, Guido here from Innate Furniture in Aotearoa, Christchurch. Together with Nick, who's on the call, we manufacture furniture using sustainably sourced New Zealand native timbers with the purpose of putting it on the mainstream map. Last year we had a range in a nationwide retailer with John Dronfield's Forever Beach and focusing on Totara and Northland. Very keen on connecting with anyone who has a supply of continuous cover forestry natives, especially in the South Island.
Brilliant. We've got a great mix of people on. Kathy, are you ready to introduce yourself, please?
Here, everyone. I'm a New Zealander living the last 25 years in Ireland. I have dual citizenship with both countries through my ancestors. A big thank you for Ramona inviting me, and also for Frank Stree, who's known of my work for a long time. I'm a past scientist, but also an artist. I joined Pro Silver Ireland in 2009. And I've been the communications website person. And one of the first study trips for Pro Silver Ireland was to go to Slovenia. So I'm delighted Yuri Daci is in this program. And I wish you all the best from the Pro Silver Ireland committee. They're all very excited about this. Thanks very much.
Kia ora, Kathy. Sandra?
Kia ora koutou. My name is Sandra Velarde. I'm originally from Peru, actually. So I have also dual nationality. I've become a New Zealander in 2019, and I've been in New Zealand for 9 years. I'm based in Rotorua. I used to work for Scion, for the Climate Change Commission. And this year I started for an engineering consultancy company called WSP. In Peru, continuing cover forestry is just forestry. So that's what we do, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Kia ora, Sandra. We're going to have Frank, and welcome Frank. We've exchanged online a number of times. Then we'll have Rob Webster, Ramona, special guest, and Martine. I don't know if I've got that right. Frank, over to you.
Kia ora and good morning, or from this end, good morning to everyone. My name is Frank Stree. I come originally from southern Germany. Been here since 1987 with my family. My background is holistic forestry since 1982. I'm a master forester trained in Germany, and I came here to train people. Unfortunately, many years too early in that sense. I was at the conference last year in Wellington, which was amazing, and followed that with a week tour through the North Island. So I have seen it before the big cyclone. Holistic forestry for me is about regenerative, restorative, and renovative. So the renovative part is when you might use other species than what was there before. So I'm looking forward to this. Thank you so much for the invitation.
Thanks, Frank. Rob, over to you.
Yes, hi, Rob Webster. I'm chair of the Sequoia Action Group of Forestry Association. I've been involved with redwood in New Zealand for a couple of decades now. Very recently, I've been working a lot with Mike Watt, scientist in Christchurch, based in Christchurch with Scion, doing economic evaluations and carbon sequestration associated with redwood. Just recently, we've been doing quite a bit of work on continuous cover forestry with redwood. Mike is working on a couple of papers that will be published on this soon. Thank you.
Thanks, Rob. Yeah, Mike is part of this project team as well. So just before I hand over to Ramona, who's one of the leaders of this project, Martine, I don't know if I've got that right, please be up next. Francis Turner, I think maybe after, Eric Cairns, and then Sebastian Klinger. We'll go in that order as it is on our screen. Over to you, Ramona.
Te maari e koutou, ko kapuarangi maunga, wainui te awa, tōrere nui arua te marae. So I'm from the Eastern Bay of Plenty in New Zealand. I live in Aotearoa. My reason for being involved in continuous cover forestry is to see forestry innovated with Māori knowledge systems, tikanga Māori, mātauranga tuku iho. And the primary objective of that is to recloak our mother Papatuanuku. Nice to see you all.
Yeah. Kia ora, Ramona. Martine. Great.
Kia ora tātou. My name is Martine Blandford. I live in Gisborne, and I've worked in forestry my whole professional life. I trained forester out of Canterbury, and I work. I'm a forestry consultant here in Gisborne, and I work primarily with Māori landowners, helping them with their forestry interests. And so continuous cover is especially important to us here in Te Tairāwhiti. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Francis.
Poso and kia ora koutou. My name is Francis Turner. I am a citizen of 3 nations. I'm the United States. I was born here. I'm a Menominee Indian. I wasn't raised on the reservation, but I've lived in New Zealand for 30 years. And my 3rd nation, though, is the Menominee Nation. My particular interest here is in connecting Indigenous Māori with Indigenous Menominee, and continuous cover forestry. I know is very strong for my people, the Menominee. So I'm really looking forward to, I've been really privileged to have been able to enable this connection, and I'm looking forward to this korero continuing. Thanks.
Welcome. Eric Cairns. Can you unmute yourself, please? So you're looking for it? Oh, now disappeared. So actually the next person then on my list is Rawson. You are unmuted, so maybe you want to introduce next, and then Sebastian.
Tēnā koutou e ropu nei. Kia ora, Ernest, for opening up our day and recognising the blessing of our Lord and our God. So I'm a Māori Scandinavian. I'm Ngāti Whātua Tūri Hau, which is the Kaupara, Ngāti Parau Te Whānau, which is the East Coast. I'm actually a little bit different to most years because I'm actually a dairy farmer who has a particular interest in science, and I've worked for a number of you people here
around Indigenous forestry, and I my main drive is around Indigenous economies. So I've done some work in Brazil for not so much in forestry, but more around social economics. So I have a fascination about why people do things, and given that we're going to put or encourage forests on land, it's about, I'm concerned about the landowners and how we incentivize them to actually see our particular view that we're portraying here. So, kia ora tātou.
Kia ora, Ross.
Sorry, I live just south of Whangarei.
Kia ora.
Yes.
Sebastian.
Kia ora, everyone. My name is Sebastian Klinger. I'm originally from Germany, and I've worked around 10 years in continuous cover forestry in Germany. Tim mentioned that before, and moved to New Zealand after that. Worked a couple of years at Scion, and now work as a forestry consultant with P.F. Olsen, focusing on native and alternative species. And yeah, very happy to be invited and involved in this process, and hope I can help and contribute a little bit with my background from Europe and Germany to help and develop a continuous cover forestry model that suits for New Zealand. Thank you.
I'm sure you can, Sebastian. Kit Richards next, then Nathan Whitmore, and then Eric, you're back on, so maybe if you can come after Nathan. Kit, you good?
Yeah, so Kit Richards, based in Aotearoa, semi-retired partially after 40 plus years in the industry, 20 years on the West Coast, were instrumental in the attempting to introduce New Zealand's first major wide-scale efforts at continuous cover forestry. Then 20 years environment manager for P.F. Olsen, involved in plantation corporate scale forestry, and also a period at theme leader for future forest research and the environment side of research. So long interest in all species under all terrains, and particularly in a more integrated landscape management approach for New Zealand in general. Just very interested to see where we get to in this.
Great. Thanks, Kit. Nathan.
Hi, everyone. My name is Nathan Whitmore. I'm based down here in Dunedin. I'm chair of Tree Herder, which is a group of people that's attempting to develop a native forestry cooperative. My background is in sustainable harvesting and also forest governance issues. I spent a lot of time working in Papua New Guinea. Cheers. Thanks very much.
Kia ora, Nathan. Eric, I see you put your mini bio on the chat. Are you can you unmute and tell us?
Right, yes. Hi, yeah. I'm currently chairman of Oaks New Zealand, one of the action groups within farm forestry. I've been following CCF for quite a while, trying to grow my own small block with mixed species. One of the things we did a couple of years ago is that I was involved with a Sustainable Farming Fund grant looking at potential to carry John Wardle's sort of target diameter harvesting scheme through to other pine blocks in the lower North Island. Just as a throwaway line here as a challenge, if you're looking at exotic species in CCF and considering the current rules on permanent forestry with retaining 30% canopy cover in every hectare, piece size of your trees that you're harvesting is a major limiting factor. So thank you. I'll leave it at there.
Thanks, Eric. Okay, so we've got 15 minutes left and we've got 25 people to introduce themselves, so we might have to go a little bit quicker. Lania Holt, if you can come next, and then Paula Rabideau, if you could be there after that, and then somebody who's got holism, if that's your surname or nickname or whatever it might be, and then Peter Casey. Lani.
Tēnā tātou katoa, ko te aroa te waka, ko Ngāti Whakaue, me Ngāti Pikia, me Ngāti Kahununu, oku iwi, no Rotorua hau, he tai tohua hau o Scion, ko Lania Holt tuku ingoa. Yes, I'm Lania Holt, I'm a scientist at Scion, living here in Rotorua. My particular interest in this kaupapa is I guess I like new forest systems, new old forest systems, should we say, in the case of continuous cover forestry, in particular non-timber forest products, food forests, mixed species, native, exotic species. And I guess with my NZIF hat, we are trying to pull together a working party in terms of, you know, these types of forests that suit our soils, such as in Tairāwhiti. So nō reira, tēnā koutou katoa. Thank you.
Kia ora, Paula.
So, kumewa nuki na tākam, Paula Rabadu Mokumana na Aswesian, Makana na Totem, Mashiko Ma na Manana Tawam. Hello everyone, I'm Rain Woman. My English name is Paula Rabadu and I'm Turtle Clan from the Menominee Nation. And I'm coming to you from Kashina, Wisconsin, from the Menominee Reservation. I'm sitting next to Frances here, as she had reached out to me to help connect the Ramona and her group with our tribe and sharing what we do as Menominee Nation, and then proceeded to invite our leaders here, Michael, who just introduced himself earlier, and a couple others in here with us. And I'm interested because my grandfather was one of the original forest keepers for our people as we were beginning all of this work, and part of it was given over to him as a responsibility for a long time in his life. So he had walked the reservation 6 times to map the forest for our people. And we used those maps for a long time as we engaged in our forestry. So I'm just connected to help our people connect with the Maori people as well. Wawanan.
Kia ora and welcome. Mark Hollis, I understand.
Yeah, awesome. Mark Hollis, I'm a specialist Indigenous forestry advisor with Aotearoa. I'm based in Whangarei. I've been involved in closed canopy forestry through regulation of the Forest Act for 10 odd years. And I see closed canopy forestry of management of native forestry as a way of extending native forest cover and improving biodiversity outcomes. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Peter Casey. I have to say, the Zoom people's faces and names seem to jump around a little bit. So if I ask you to introduce yourself for the second time, please just point it out. Peter, then Alec Giffen and John McCready, please.
Good morning, I'm Peter Casey. I'm the Chief Executive of New Zealand Carbon Farming, the largest New Zealand owner of managed forests, and also I'm Chair of the New Zealand Institute of Forestry Registration Board, and that's focused on enhancing professionalism of forest management in New Zealand across all forest types and all forest management systems, which includes continuous cover forestry. And thanks for the invitation.
Go to Alec.
I'm Alec Giffen. I live in the state of Maine in the United States of America. I have been working to improve forest management in Maine and New England, and indeed the country, for 50 years. Served as past director of the Maine Forest Service. My interest is in the full suite of forest values, including timber, but not limited to timber. And we're currently working to figure out how we can provide incentives to landowners to practice forestry that represents a fuller suite of forest values.
Kia ora. So John next, then Kate Metcalf, Narendra, and then Sean Weaver.
Kia ora koutou, ko Doug McCready aho. I'm here as a board member of Ngā Paua Tāne. I connect into Ngāti Maniapoto Te Nehe Nehe Nui. That's the King Country area, which means Ngāti Maniapoto of the Great Forest. And I'm also connected tribally here to Te Rotorua Nui a Kahumata Momoi, which means the second lake of Kahu of the Sleepy Eye. Both areas are highly deforested. Both areas were deforested post-colonization. And I think it's very important to understand that from the Māori point of view, there are actually very different tribal perspectives and realities around forests and forest cover. I'm involved in 5 Māori land trusts, and on each of them we have a forest and trees objective. 3 of them we're reforesting, 2 of them we're managing existing cover. My parting thought for my introduction is to understand that from the Māori perspective, the country is still completely forested. The wairua, the spirit of the trees, lives on, and there is a significant correlation between mental, spiritual, social, and community health for tangata whenua for Māori relative to trees that has been unstudied and unrecognised. So that's my key interest, and my other key interest is the recreational value of forests, all species, native, exotics, mixed, and in particular commercial recreation. Kia ora koutou.
Got it, Doug. Thank you. So Kate, Narendra, and Peter Casey, if you can go short and sharp, that'd be great. So we have an opportunity for everybody to introduce themselves before we close off.
Kia ora. Kei te mahi atu kia Queer Matua Ernest, nau rā I tukuna te arawhata, nā reira he mihi kawana kia koe. He mihi kawana ki ngā mana whenua o tēnā takiwā, nā reira e te hau kainga tēnā. Koutou. O te rā, I work at Hikina Whakatutuki, the Ministry of Business, Innovation and Employment. I work in the Just Transitions Partnerships team, and we were included in the ministerial inquiry into land alongside some other regions for some time. So that's, but Tairāwhiti is the main reason that we're here. Yeah, my name is Kate Mitchcalf, and I'm going to put into the chat a link to a Just Transition guide we recently did. But some of you might be interested.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's good. You could be cutting out a little bit. Oh, we just lost Narendra.
Okay. Thank you. Kia ora, everyone, and good morning. My name is Narendra. I'm originally from Nepal, and I have been working in New Zealand, and I'm living in New Zealand. I've been living in New Zealand for 10 years, and by profession, I'm a forester. I have worked in different parts of the world, such as Fiji, Nepal, and now working in New Zealand. I have practiced continuous cover forestry in Nepal, but in community forestry for 15 years. But that continuous cover forestry practice was for subsistence benefit. That's all about me. Thank you for inviting me.
Kia ora. And then Sean from ECOS as well. Then we'll have Mike Marden, Cherie, Paul Quinlan, Ian Brennan. Kia ora, Sean.
Kia ora koutou. Yeah, Sean Weaver Takuingoa no o Tautahi aho. I'm originally from Fiji, originally got involved in forest management over there, working with Indigenous peoples in Fiji and other countries in the Pacific. I had a long interest in continuous cover forestry that goes back to the late 1980s in Indigenous forests in the Pacific region. At ECOS, we have a very strong focus on continuous cover forestry. Narendra, who just introduced himself a moment ago, it works with me at ECOS. And I'm writing a letter to Santa asking him to deliver a permanent forest category in the ETS that's defined as continuous cover forestry. That includes exotic, remaining as exotic, as well as exotic transitioning to Indigenous, as well as Indigenous production forestry, as well as Indigenous protection forestry. So really enjoy working with colleagues in the space. Do quite a bit of work also with Tika Pungajus, so a connection into Ngā Paua Tāne. We have a number of Māori clients in the work that we do, and really appreciate the broad and long horizons of thinking that Māoridom bring to this kaupapa. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Sean. Now, I'm really conscious that we've only really got 5 minutes or so. So I apologise to the people who are at the end or at the end on the Zoom. But can you go super quick, please, in terms of introduction? We'll have an opportunity, I think, for further introductions later, and we're going to get everybody's details. So Mike Marden, and then Cherie and Paul.
Hi, Mike Marden, geologist based in Gisborne, retired research scientist. One of my interests has been quantifying native plant biomass, including their root systems, in order to see which species afforded the best erosion control potential, particularly along riparian margins where we don't currently have them, and especially where we need to transition out of pine forest to a continuous Indigenous cover.
Cherie, Paul.
Kia ora koutou. Nā mihi mō te whakawā tēnei ata matua Ernst ki ngā kai kōrero, nā mihi kia koutou katoa. Ko au tētahi tamariki o te kohu, ngai tūhoi tūruera, ngā te porau, me tainui hoki. Kia ora, Cherie Rangiahua, he pau tohu mātua mō Tūru Rākau, New Zealand Forest Service. So I grew up in Tūruera, where I currently am revegetating my own whenua and pest control, but my daytime job is working for Tūru Rākau as a senior forest advisory. Yeah, ngā mihi.
Kia ora. Just before we go on, I'm just going to mention, because people are starting to leave, and I'm sure others will need to in the next few minutes. We will have a recording of this first session available up on the website at some point soon. And so those who can stay and give your introduction now, that would still be able to be shared with others. So hopefully you can. So who are we up to?
People are jumping around.
Yeah.
Evan?
Maybe Evan go next, then actually Paul Quinn. Paul, why don't you go next? Then we'll have Evan Powell, and then Ian.
Good tatou. I'm a trustee with Tāne's Tree Trust. I'm based up in the far north, involved with sustainable forest management and harvest under the Forests Act, and particularly involved with the Tōtara projects in Northland, and more recently transitional forestry projects. Kia ora tātou.
Kia ora tātou. I'm delighted to be here today and seeing this. My name is Evan Powell. I'm a forester originally from Squamish, British Columbia. I work for Te Uru Rākau, New Zealand Forest Service, and look after the forestry component of the forestry and wood processing ITP. And I've helped direct our funds to help fund this project. And yeah, I look after the diversification of forestry systems and help drive that from a policy and operational perspective. So yeah, cheers, thanks, bye.
Thanks. Ian.
Kia ora, I'm Ian Brennan. I'm a trustee of Tāne's Tree Trust. We have a small farm, 88 hectares, and we're planting all the steep land, which is anything that can't be driven over with a wheeled vehicle. Into native forestry. We've done 37 hectares so far, and yeah, we use it to show people around, to show what it might look like if more native forestry was reintegrated into farmland. Thank you.
Got it, Ian. So we'll go next to Elizabeth, then Bayless, Ron, and then McKaylee. And apologies again, because the Zoom with the little pictures of you or your names keep jumping around, so we're trying to make sure we're not going back over people who've already introduced. Elizabeth.
Tēnā koutou, I'm Elizabeth Dunningham. I'm currently working part-time at Scion. I'm a wood scientist and a researcher who's been looking at radiata pine and more recently Indigenous products. My research interest is in integrated value chains and diversification of products, particularly from Indigenous species in a sustainable way. I'm also contracted to Ngā Powatani into a different ITP project. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Elizabeth.
Kia ora, ko Chris Bayliss toko ingoa, work for the New Zealand Forest Service, Aotearoa, and I'm in the ITP implementation team.
Sorry, Chris. Yeah. Ron next, and then Michaeli.
Poso, Ron Waka, Menominee Tribal Enterprise, Menominee Nation, Wisconsin, forest manager for the tribe. Thank you for the invite. I'm here to listen, learn, share, support, exchange, whatever we can do. I'm excited to be a part of it. Thank you.
Kia ora, Ron, and welcome. Michaeli, are you there? And then maybe
Hi, yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, also a member of Menominee Nation with Ron, Mike, and the couple others who are Menominee here. We are Indigenous to North America. Specifically, my job is a GIS and inventory forester for our tribe's forestry program. Ron is actually my boss. Our tribe was never relocated, and these are actually our traditional lands. While the rest of the state was being cut over, we were managing sustainably, and so now we have old growth forest left. Anyways, I'm here hoping to make new connections, learn about other cultures, and just an overall exchange of knowledge. Thanks.
Akoi and welcome. Tēnā, are you able to give an introduction? And then Belinda, and then Phil T, and Amy Highland.
Hello, I'm Tēnā, and this is Mari. I work for Climate Smart Forest Economy Program, which is a collaboration between Climate Kick, Dalberg, World Economic Forum, the Nature Reservancy, sorry for Mari. And I got to know New Zealand's forestry and forests through partnering with the Connective and Hikurangi Enterprises, where we developed, oops, sorry, this might not work, just to say, very happy to be here and looking forward to the next sessions.
And where are you, Tēnā?
I'm currently in Boston, Massachusetts, but I'm originally from Croatia.
Kia ora. Belinda.
Tēnā koutou katoa, ko Belinda Miller toko ingoa. I'm from Whakatū Nelson. I'm manager for the central area for Te Urarako's Forest Service Advice Team. I've managed the 1 Billion Trees Native Community Planting Grant, Matariki Te Rako, which focused on connecting communities with trees, and now my mahi involves providing strategic advice to landowners and the forest sector to maximise the long-term value of our forests and to support sustainable land use management. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Actually, we're going to ask Mel. Mel, can you introduce yourself, then Phil, then Amy?
Kia ora, everybody. I'm Mel. I am the CEO of Tane's Tree Trust. And of course, you've heard from a number of our trustees today, including our chairperson, Peter, and I am based in Hamilton. Lovely to see everybody.
Kia ora everyone, Phil Tetzlaff, Senior Forestry Advisor with the Forest Service Advice Team, Te Urarako. So I'm based in Wanganui. So part of my role is to introduce landowners and stakeholders to forestry and get them encouraged to start planting. And they're certainly challenging me to come up with or help them guide them into solutions that don't involve pine and don't involve clearfell. So excited to be here.
Kia ora. Amy, and then we're going to have someone whose name is iPad, and then Rosenberger, then Brad Chandler.
Cool. Kia ora, my name is Amy. I'm from Christchurch and I work at ECOS with Sean and Narendra. My role is a nature-based solutions officer. And yeah, at ECOS, we really support continuous cover forestry and understand the importance and urgency of a middle path solution. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to this series. Thank you.
Sure, Amy, welcome. Person who has an iPad shown, do you want to introduce yourself? Maybe not. Okay. Rosenberger, and then Brad Chandler and Ian Page. We've had a few Ians. Maybe it's, I'm just noting them since I'm an Ian. Brad, are you able to who we got? Sorry, we seem to be having challenges with people unmuting. Oh, there. Yes.
Hello.
Okay, well, let's go with
Brad.
Brad first.
Kia ora tātou, ko Brad Chandler, taku ingoa. Currently Forestry Environmental Management Advisor for the Tito Ihu, top of the South Island in New Zealand. Main focus is around restoring areas that are either currently or have been previously infested with wild and conifers back to native cover. Kia ora.
Mr. Rosenberger, over to you.
Okay, my turn. You can hear me, eh?
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, so my name is Dusan Rosenberger, which is pretty unpronounceable, and I'm coming from Slovenia in a silvicultural lab of forestry faculty at the University of Ljubljana, Slovenia. We are very interested in this kind of management since it's been practiced in Slovenia over 70 years. And also as a member of ProSilva, I'm very excited to see that this kind of process is going on so far away from Europe. So thank you for the invitation and good luck. Thank
you. So again, apologies if we're calling on people who have already spoken, but and our list: Ian Page, Keely Taylor, Dean Satchel, Aseta, and then Susan Moore-Labo. No, Ian Page. Are you able to unmute and introduce yourself? No. Okay. Keely, are you able to introduce yourself? Here you are.
Kia ora koutou, ko Keely Taylor tōku wingoa. I am from Te Whanganui Atara, Wellington, and I work for Te Aotearoa, the New Zealand Forest Service. I'm interested in this kaupapa from a diversifying forests perspective, and particularly thinking about resilience and ecosystem services it can provide. Yeah, and thank you for having me.
Kia ora. Looks like Ian Page. Ian, you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. Okay, we'll move on. Dean Satchel, and then Aseta, and then Susan Moore-Labo.
Kia ora koutou, ko Dean Satchel tōku ingoa. I'm working with Lee Legler in on a 200 hectare forest here in the Bay of Islands far north. It's a mixed species forest with trees starting to mature. We're particularly interested in continuous cover forestry and harvesting of continuous cover forests and efficiency gains using technology. Thank you. Oh, and I'm also Forest Service advice to Aotearoa, and we're particularly interested in the knowledge that we can get from these workshops to help out our clients. Sure.
Got Aseta, and then Susan.
Kia ora koutou. My name is Aseta. I'm part of the Connective team, so I'm sure a lot of you have received emails from me just around our workshops. So really nice to meet you all, and sorry for a few of those technical difficulties earlier. And yeah, just really looking forward to learning from you all. I'm very new to forestry, so just here to learn. Thank you.
Where are you calling from, Aseta?
I'm calling from Samoa. So nice to see you all.
Kia ora.
Kia ora koutou, ko Susan Morlavo Tukuingawa. I'm a Senior Forest Service Advisor with Te Ururako in Te Tauihu, top of the south. And my area of interest is in establishment and protection of Indigenous forests. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Now, I think we've done everybody, but if we haven't, can you let us know? Anybody who has not had an opportunity to introduce themselves, either put your hand up or just unmute and start talking.
This is Alec Giffen again, and I think that Bob Purcell dropped off of the call, but Bob is the executive director of the New England Forestry Foundation, and he has a deep and abiding interest in this topic.
Thank you.
Thanks, Alec. Is Yuri on the call? Yuri, are you there? Must have dropped off.
Okay, so I'm just going to hand over to Ernest to close the meeting, but just to remind people that over the next, well, in fact, the same time for the next 3 Fridays, we're going to have the next Wainanga, the workshops together with different speakers from around the world, and this has been absolutely awesome. The group of people that have come together, so. Great work. Well, thank you for getting up early, those who got up early, and thanks very much to Ramona, Lucy, and Paul, who put a huge amount of effort to get this set up. This really has been really impressive. Ernest, are you okay to close us off now, please?
Sure. Tēnā koutou katoa. E haere te ngākau I te rongo tō koutou kōrero, ki te tūtaki. No reira kai tau te dangi Māori ki runga koutou. E pā te matua ko koe hoki tēnei, e tahuri mai tō taringa wanganui a tātou whakawhitiwhiti kōrero, ko tātou ei ngā mana ki tanga I runga I a tātou. Nano reira, tukuna mai te whakawhitai ki a koe, te whakamoimiti mo tēnei, kia tohu tonu I a tātou whakawhitiwhiti kōrero, kia u Māori ka nei, tō tātou hiahia, tauhiahia kia waihoe hei taonga mō ngā whakatupuranga ko te haere mai. Tukuna mai tō manakitanga I o tātou whānau I tā wāhi, tērā taho te awa, me tātou ne hoki ki te kāinga nei. Nā no reira, whakawhetaina kia tātou, kia koe e matua, I roto I te ingoa hiu kraiti tō tātou ariki. Āmene.
Amen.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you so much.
Ka kite.